What if memory wasn't yet housed in the mind, but in the marrow of the earth? What if the wind that moves across deserts is not wind at all, but a whisper from before the world was measured? What if time itself is a wound, and history, a salve to cover what cannot be remembered, a wound sealed with stone and opened with silence? Beneath the sky's first breath, before the rivers were named, a voice moved across the water. It spoke in light, then vanished in fire. There were those who listened. They carved the echo into pillars, dragged the breath into mountains, and poured the sky into stairways. Before the scribes, before the kings, before the bones of gods turned to statues, there was a hush. And in that hush, everything. Not story, but pattern. Not invention, but return. We call them ancients, but they were not ancient. They were original. We are the ones born late. Their monuments were not made to endure time. They were made to resist forgetting. Every joint, every seam, every sacred axis was placed to survive the flood of erasure. They built in the geometry of storms. They engraved myth into gravity. They asked stone to remember what the sky could no longer carry. But then came the waters. Then came the silence. Then came the fracture in the song. What rose after was shadow, repetition without rhythm, a retelling by those who did not know they were speaking in fragments. And so we call it mythology. We call it superstition. We call it lost. But it is none of these. It speaks in the blood and dreams in the bones. It calls from the hollows between thunder and breath. Across the world, in temples now shattered, in stones worn smooth by forgotten fingers, it waits. And now the memory returns, in fragments, in tremors, in questions that feel older than language. Why were the stars aligned to mirror stone? Why do myths from opposite ends of the earth tell of a flood, a fire, a fall? Why do ancient stones sing when touched with sound? Why do shadows move in rhythm on the equinox? What was remembered that had to be buried? What was buried that now begins to rise? The monuments do not ask to be explained. They do not need interpretation. They are not riddles. They are records. We stand before them like amnesiacs in the house we were born in, feeling the walls but not knowing the rooms. But the memory stirs. The script beneath the sand twitches in the sun. The sealed doors begin to warm. It is not knowledge that returns. It is the remembrance that we once held it and let it go. Before the first chisel struck stone, before the first fire warmed a cave, there was a pulse in the silence, a rhythm beneath the void. It is not gone. It is buried in symmetry, in resonance, in stillness. This is not the beginning. It is the reawakening. The veil thins. The breath deepens. The forgotten begins to speak. And so we descend. They did not rise from mud. They did not crawl from the chaos of beasts. They descended, born not of time but of pattern, their minds aligned with stars, their flesh held fire in stillness. The ancients spoke of them with reverence and with fear. Sumer called them Anunnaki. Egypt named them Neteru. India, the Devas and Asuras. They walked not like men, but like memory given shape. Their eyes were clocks for the cosmos, not a metaphor, but an epoch. Not myth, but memory hardened into symbol. It was a time when sky and earth had not yet divorced, when God still left footprints. They built not for worship, but for resonance. Their structures were keys, not homes. They shaped stone as if it breathed. They aligned temples not with terrain, but with the turning of time. They built Karnak to mirror the Milky Way. They built Teotihuacan as a circuit. They carved Orion into sand. Before dynasties and dogma, they wrote in geometry. Each triangle a prayer, each angle a spell. But then came the breach, a rupture in the song of the world. The veil between realms split. Floods did not merely drown cities, they washed away the grid. They severed the root of remembrance. But stone does not forget. It keeps the curve of the sky. It holds the ankle of lost hands. The Great Sphinx watches still, not 4,000 years old, but carved when Egypt drank rain. Its body worn by water, its face reshaped, its purpose buried. It once bore the full face of a lion, a sentinel from before pharaohs, from before man remembered his own name. The Nile shifted, the desert rose, but the Sphinx remained, half submerged in silence. Those who came later saw the ruins and built their myths atop them. But the myth is older. It comes from the time when men lived among giants, not giants in form, giants in knowing, giants in sound, in sight, in soul. They moved blocks with resonance, not brute force. They shaped space with sound. Every monument from Peru to Petra sings the same frequency, a hymn encoded in stone. They did not worship stars, they mirrored them. As above, so below, made literal. What fell from the sky did not fall by accident, they summoned it. Temples as receivers, mountains as anchors, bodies as vessels. The first builders were not alone. They came from a lineage beyond terrestrial birth. Flesh of earth, flame of sky, memory of void. Their cities breathed, their stones hummed, their rituals turned with the stars. But entropy crept in, the balance tilted, and the gate closed. Those who survived buried the knowledge in symbol, encoded in legend, veiled in fear. Thus myth became the cloak, and behind it, truth hardened into sacred silence. They are remembered not in names but in patterns. And so, they wait in the hollows beneath pyramids, in the angles of forgotten temples. Not gone, not dead, just withdrawn. When the world is quiet enough, when the stars realign, their breath returns. The Sphinx watches, the earth stirs, the seal begins to crack. We were not the first. We are the echo. The builders came before the story. In the long night before the ages, the stars sat lower in the sky, and the earth spoke in tones no longer heard. There was no separation between the stone and the star, no veil between dust and divine. Everything breathed in symmetry. The Giza plateau was not a tomb field. It was a frequency map, an instrument tuned to the heavens. 3 pyramids stand, but they are not mere shapes. They are shadows of Orion burned into earth. Alnitak, Alnilam, Mintaka, translated into limestone and precision. A stellar mirror carved into dust. But this alignment is not for the now. It fits the sky, not of today, but of 10,500 BC, when the earth wobbled into memory of fire, when the ice began to bleed. They say Khufu built the pyramid, but Khufu only inherited it, like a child claiming ownership of the moon. The stones themselves deny the timeline. Each block sings in silence, cut not by tool, but by intent. No mortar holds them, yet they bind like bone, so precise, so impossibly tight. Not even a blade can slip between the seams. They are fused by knowing, not by force. And beneath, shaft upon shaft, spiraling into the deep, a city beneath a city, tunnels not of chaos but design, a labyrinth to house the memory of flame. Spiral ramps descend into shadow, cubic chambers wait at the base, holding a silence too old to name. These are not tombs, these are circuits. The earth itself is wired. Some say Tesla knew that the pyramid was not a grave but a transmitter. The capstone, lost now, may have once glowed, not in metaphor, but in resonance. A beacon drawing power from breath. Christopher Dunn spoke of vibration, of stone that sang, of frequency guided by structure. Imagine it, a machine wrapped in myth, humming beneath the desert sun. Energy not extracted but harmonized, drawn up from Earth's heart. And still the priests came. Still they lit fires and offered grain. Still they echoed rites they barely understood. The rituals were echoes. The chants were remnants. The original purpose lost behind time's veil. The pyramid's base is aligned, not approximately but perfectly, to cardinal truth. North, south, east, west, before compasses, before maps. It knows the earth better than we do, because it was not built to house men. It was built to speak to the sky. All of it whispers, from the Sphinx's weathered gaze to the uncut bedrock beneath. Even the shafts inside aim not at the earth, but at Orion and Sirius, watchers in the sky, lords of memory, keepers of return. And if one listens not with ears but with breath, one can hear it, a deep hum beneath the sand. When the stars were closer, the earth was not silent. It responded. The monuments were not built to last. They were built to return, to activate when the alignment sings again. And that alignment comes. The wheel turns. The axis stirs. The memory waits, in stone, in silence, in sky. Not all ruins lie in dust. Some sleep beneath dust. Some breathe beneath it. The desert is not empty. It is a skin, and something stirs beneath. Not imagined, not symbolic, etched in stone and shadow. Vertical shafts drop like wells. Spirals descend into the deep. Chambers open where light has never lived. The radar speaks, though eyes cannot see. Synthetic sight pierces the veil. A network emerges. Hidden rooms, impossible depths. Over 600 meters down, more than 2,000 feet, lie symmetrical voids no natural force could shape. Cubic, geometric, measured with thought, not accident. Corridors branch like arteries. Ramps curl like serpent spines, a cathedral of silence beneath the sand. Is this the hall of records, the library of the first ones, a vault of memory sealed against the flood? The legends speak, not in one tongue, but in many. Egypt tells of Thoth. Atlantis whispers through Plato. The Hopi remember a world beneath. Always there is a vault, a sealed place. Not for treasure, but for remembering. Those who carved the pyramid did not just reach upward, they tunneled down. As above, so below, reversed and buried. 8 shafts beneath Khafra's pyramid fall like needles through the skin of earth. At their base, chambers vast as temples. Who built them? How deep must one dig to reach a forgotten god? Some say it was never meant for us. That these depths are not a message, but a mechanism, a machine for memory, a device sealed until the stars realign, a lock awaiting breath, not key. The ancients did not write in ink. They wrote in stone, in resonance, and what lies beneath may not be dead, it may be dormant. Tesla dreamed of tapping Earth's pulse. Perhaps others already did. Perhaps this was not the first current. And Dunn saw the pyramid as engine, sound, pressure, chambers like coils, the whole plateau a circuit, not a necropolis. But the sand returned, wind buried in tension, and history closed the gate. Still, whispers leak, still ground trembles with things unnamed, still the shafts call down. In every myth there is a descent, into cave, into underworld, into truth. Gilgamesh dug, Orpheus sang. Every hero must descend, not to conquer, but to remember, to witness what the surface denies. So too must we descend, not with spade, but with silence. For what sleeps beneath Giza does not await discovery. It awaits resonance. The stars shift again, the gates loosen, the buried breath rises, and the cities beneath sand begin to remember the light. Far from the Nile, in the bones of Lebanon, the earth rises in defiance of reason. There Baalbek broods, a temple not of men but of magnitude, stone upon stone, so vast, so precise that time itself recoils. These are not blocks, they are titans, slain and stacked, the stone of the pregnant woman. 1,000 tons of silence, carved, cut, and abandoned mid-breath. Why begin what cannot be moved? Why sing a song with no end? Some say hubris, others say interruption, but the truth is heavier than stone. The builders did not guess. They knew. They remembered. Each block whispers a forgotten method, not of levers, but of harmonics. Some suggest sound lifted them, vibration as hand, frequency as servant. Imagine it, a resonance so pure that stone dances like breath. But the technique vanished, or was veiled, buried with its priests. Roman cranes, masters of empire, touched nothing of this scale. The Romans crowned the altar but did not raise it. They built upon mystery, not from it. Above, they placed their gods, Jupiter, Bacchus, echoes of Olympus. But beneath, the elder foundation speaks. Columns rise tall as thunder, each joint so clean, so deliberate. No quarry nearby holds stones so vast. They were moved. But how? Weathering suggests a deeper past, more ancient than Rome, older than carved names. 3 stones sleep near the base, unmoved, half-carved, still dreaming. The third monolith weighs beyond belief. 1,600 tons, a breath caught in rock, an altar unfinished or forbidden. Did the tools break? Did the priests vanish? Or did something rise that should not? Power measured in weight. Intent measured in impossibility. These were no mere structures. They are warnings. They are thresholds. They are forgotten rituals etched in bedrock. And yet Baalbek is not alone. Karnak too speaks in scale. Columns stretch skyward like memories reaching home. Hypostyle halls, forests of stone with symmetry no storm can undo. Some say ramps, some say scaffolds, but none can replicate the gaze of those stones. They were not built for man. They were built for presence, for something taller, older, quieter. Each pillar a spine, each lintel a bridge, each temple a lung. These are not temples to gods. They are vessels of the divine, conductors of unseen fire. And then they were left, not in ruin, but in rest. The builders did not die. They withdrew or waited. The stones still pulse. They remember fingers that shaped them. Not human, not entirely. We walk through these ruins as ants upon altars, unaware of the ritual we interrupt. And still they endure, not as history, as prophecy. For when the sky returns to its former tilt, when the song beneath stone hums again, the altar will awaken. High in the spine of the earth, where clouds bleed into stone, the Andes cradle forgotten craft. Here the Incas ruled, but not alone. They walked paths carved by older hands. Before them, Tiwanaku dreamed in volcanic breath, its stones cut not by time, but by will. Pumapunku stands in defiance. H-shaped blocks, perfect, interlocking, untouched by chaos. Angles so sharp, edges so true, that modern blades flinch in comparison. No iron tools, no written maps, yet geometry was their language. The blocks weigh 130 tons. Some traveled from quarries miles away. No beasts, no wheels, only intention. They moved stone like music. Not force, but frequency. Each block a syllable in a forgotten alphabet spoken through stone. Seismic lands trembled, yet walls stood, not resisting the earth, but dancing with it. Irregular shapes fitted like stars in orbit. No mortar, only memory. These were walls that breathed. They absorbed the quake, then stilled themselves again. Sacsayhuaman looms above Cusco, its stones like jaws locked in silence, each one a monument to knowing. Some weigh 120 tons, yet they lean into each other like elders in council. The trapezoid ruled the design, doors, windows, steps, all slanted, all wise. Not flawed, but tuned, built to guide force, not resist it. And Machu Picchu, a city in the clouds, hidden like a sacred breath. Its terraces curve like ribs along the mountain's spine. Its water channels flow like veins. They carved the mountain without breaking it. They asked permission and were answered. Even in silence, the site hums, stones aligned with sun and solstice. Intihuatana, the hitching post of the sun. Not metaphor, but mechanism. It cast no shadow twice a year. It marked the moment light became still. To build such balance at 2,400 meters high requires memory, not maps. They remembered things we have forgotten to ask. They listened to the slope, No writing, no blueprints, yet order prevailed. Quipus nodded their knowledge. Strings spoke what stone confirmed. Records not of conquest, but of resonance. Roads stretched 30,000 kilometers. The Shapak Nyain, a highway of breath. Suspension bridges swung across chasms, woven from grass and renewed by ritual. The bridges lived. They were braided memory, passed down in fingers and song. And the terraces, not just for food. They sculpted microclimates, stair-stepping the sun. In Moray, concentric rings descend like fingerprints. Each level holds a different season. It was a laboratory, a whisper of science through soil. No chemicals, only light, water, altitude. The Incas read the earth like a face. They mapped mood, not just matter. Their cities hold no straight line unless the mountain asked for one. They built by listening. They did not conquer the landscape. They became part of its breath. They built as the sky moved, and still the staircases stand, not crumbling, but dreaming. They lead not upward, but inward, toward the memory in stone. They are not ruins. They are instructions, left for when the rhythm returns. And the rhythm is returning, slowly, surely. Deep in the jungle, where vines veil memory and stone breathes in silence, the Maya built in rhythm, not for kings, but for the cosmos. They were not astronomers, they were witnesses. They did not map the sky, they mirrored it. Chichen Itza rises from the green, its pyramid a calendar, its shadow a prophecy. Each side holds 91 steps. 4 sides, and the summit makes 365. The year carved into stone. The sun measured not by clock, but by echo and serpent. At the equinox, light slices down the staircase. A shadow slithers like a feathered god. And sound answers. One clap at the base, and the stones cry back. A chirp, a bird song, the voice of the Quetzal. Not accident. Acoustics shaped by sacred intent, stone carved to speak. The pyramid does not echo. It responds. It remembers. Each stone a tuning fork, each stair a string. El Caracol, the snail shell observatory, spins its gaze toward Venus. Windows align with planetary paths. The sky enters and does not leave unchanged. No telescopes, no glass. Only eyes, patience, and time. They tracked eclipses, knew the breath of Venus, timed their rituals with celestial pulses. Not calendars, not systems, but sacred cycles woven through sky and blood. Their zero predated Europe. Their math danced in dots and shells, each number a glyph, a prayer, a pulse. They counted deep time, not decades, but epochs. They did not fear endings, only forgetting, only dissonance. Even their colors endured. Maya blue, a pigment immune to decay. It clings to temple walls like memory clings to dream, unafraid of sun or rain. Plazas aligned to solstice, temples tuned to light. Every corridor whispers cycle. They knew water was not just a resource, but a ritual. They dug channels, built reservoirs, carved drains into limestone. They trapped the sky and let it flow through their cities. Each drop an offering. Even without metal, without wheels, they built high. Pyramids rose like mountain echoes. Stone moved by sweat, by ritual, by rhythm. The builders were not slaves. They were participants, ritual laborers echoing gods. Maya engineers understood what breathes. Their temples inhale sunrise. And always, always the sky above mirrored their work below. Each aligned, each calibrated for meaning beyond utility. They lived in prophecy, not as prediction, but as alignment. Even now, we stand in their ruins and feel the pulse. The serpent still descends. The stones still sing. The sky still watches. And in quiet moments, when sound falls just right, memory returns. Far from jungle, beyond desert, where mountains wear the sky like a crown, another memory unfolds. not in tales, but in temples carved from stone itself. In India, beneath centuries of silence, Kailasa waits. Not built, but revealed. Not assembled, but excavated from the mountain's soul. A temple born in reverse, carved top to bottom. A monolith of devotion and design. 200,000 tons of rock removed without fracture, without misstep. No room for error, no second chance. Only vision and the will to make void sacred. Sculptures breathe from the walls. Pillars rise from unbroken earth. Symmetry not drawn, but intuited. Every surface speaks, but no one recalls the voice that first called it into being. No blueprints, no cranes, only memory passed hand to hand. Geometry lives there, the divine in dimension, stone shaped like mantra, and water, always water. Chained Bari in Rajasthan, a staircase to reflection, 3,500 steps spiraling down into Earth's cool breath. It drinks light, gathers shadow, and holds heat like a secret. In China, stone sings a different song. The Yangshan quarry waits unfinished. The Staley block, massive, motionless cut, but never moved. 16,000 tons, too large for story, too deliberate for error. Why begin what cannot end, unless the beginning was the purpose? Surfaces smooth as silence, edges aligned like thought, but the stele never stood. Some say they tried, others say they knew it was not meant to rise. Yet, elsewhere in bronze and ink, China whispered through invention, the seismograph of Zhangheng, a dragon's breath catching the footsteps of earthquakes. A ball drops, a frog catches, the earth speaks. They raid tremors like scripture. Vibration became vision, the invisible made visible. And in the sky, the armillary sphere turned, a celestial engine of observation. Rings within rings, planetary rhythms traced in metal. No myth, only movement. Then came the compass, a floating needle dreaming of north. It made sailors prophets. It made the sea a scroll that could be read. Paper followed, from bark, from hemp, from waste. Thoughts held in fibers passed like fire, and gunpowder. Ritual turned to war, alchemy to ignition. They held flame and gave it form, not destruction, transmutation. They lit the dark with chemistry and chart. Their maps reached beyond empire. And yet, through all these marvels, stone remains. Each one breathes, each one waits, each one remembers. The breath of the stone is not gone. It is held, it is rising. For when silence becomes deep enough, the temples will speak again, and stone will finish what it began. Far across the sea, where the sky bends toward silence, an island remembers alone. Rapa Nui, a cradle of wind and stone, cut off, but not forgotten. The Moai stand, not in lines, but in vigil. Eyes once filled with coral, watching the stars, measuring the breath of gods. Carved from volcanic bone, they walked, not with wheels, but with rhythm. Swaying statues moved like dancers. Stone became wind. They called it mana. Force not forced, but invited. Some still sleep half-birthed in quarries, faces turned toward the soil. Why leave them? Why stop? Was it choice or silence descending? Rongo, rongo, wooden tablets, curved signs, a language lost. It spirals like a serpent, read in reversals, line by line, breath by breath. No one speaks it now, but it waits. Not dead, veiled. The stars still align with their platforms. Tongariki greets the solstice. In Petra, the Nabateans carved not just homes, but havens for resonance, temples into sandstone, facades from cliff, treasuries of silence. They built from the top down, chiseling heaven into earth, precision as devotion, water, their hidden god, cisterns, channels, secret paths brought rain to desert's heart. They harvested the impossible. In rock, they summoned rivers. Petra is breath and shadow, a city of thresholds, each one humming with absence. And Hegra, sister of stone, carved tombs staring skyward. inscribed names beneath vanished constellations, offerings to memory. No rivers, yet orchards bloomed, hydraulics without spectacle. They did not build with force. They built with harmony, each curve a negotiation with wind and heat. No walls of conquest, only designs of peace, adaptation, not domination. In Lycia, tombs cling to cliffs, homes for the dead shaped like the living, stacked high above the world, like prayers made solid. Sarcophagi on slopes, massive, unmoved, bearing the weight of absence. And Monte Alban, a city upon a mountain, the summit carved flat. The Zapotecs did not level by command. They carved with consensus. Stone moved by intention shared. Aligned with solstice, built to survive tremor, each step tuned to the sun. They saw earth as instrument, not obstacle. And farther still, in Persia, roads stretched like veins. The royal road, a ribbon through empires, from Susa to Sardis. They moved messages at the speed of memory, days where months once ruled. Bad gears rose like spines, catching wind, whispering cool into heat. Persepolis stood, a city of order etched in diversity. Walls bore every face, each subject carved in gesture, not submission. And in Byzantium, Sumela clung to cliff, a monastery carved into the impossible. It defied gravity, built not in safety but in vision. Chains across harbors, dome over basilica, secrets sealed in gold and ash. Greek fire, a weapon of mystery burning even water. And Hagia Sophia, light suspended, a dome that does not fall. From scroll to stone, from chant to chain, the thread moved. And now it vanishes, not in failure, but in sleep. The builders are gone, the thread is cut, but the loom remains. Each stone is a syllable of an unfinished sentence, each ruin a comma in a breath held too long. But the thread is not lost. It moves beneath skin, beneath soil. In silence, it stirs, waiting. For when the stars return, when the breath of the world deepens, the memory will rethread itself, and the temples will awaken.